This is the Paranormal Podcast with Jim Harold.
Welcome to the Paranormal Podcast. I am Jim Harold. So glad to be with you once again today. And I must say, really an honor to talk to our guest. We've been wanting to talk to him for years, and we finally had the opportunity, and we're so thankful for it. And I'm talking about Timothy Good. He has been involved in the UFO field since the 1950s. He's a worldwide lecturer. He's been on countless television and radio programs. He's a multi-best-selling author. Everything he puts out is a bestseller, essentially, going back to his first book in 1987. And today we're going to talk about his latest, Earth, an Alien Enterprise, the shocking truth behind the greatest cover-up in human history. And we're so glad to have him with us. He joins us from the UK. Mr. Good, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now, I'll get right to the heart of the matter. You say in the subtitle of this book, the shocking truth behind the greatest cover-up in human history. And I believe in your intro, I think it's Stephen Bassett who says something about, it's not only, something to the effect, it's not only about the UFOs in the air, but the lies on the ground. How big is this lie?
It's fairly big, I have to say. In fact, I've been told by government sources in your country and other countries that it's the most sensitive subject in the intelligence community, and for very good reasons. And I can tell you what's going on in a sort of overview, if you like.
Absolutely.
Earth is unique. Earth is not unique in this part of the galaxy, but it's unique in a certain area of our galaxy. And my information is that others have their BDI on planet Earth and have had for perhaps tens of thousands of years. And I think myself that we, human beings, are a hybridized species, hybridized by aliens. There's a very interesting description in the Bible, in Genesis. I think it's chapter 6 that says something like, the sons of God came down and saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and came in unto them and produced a hybridized species, and that apparently is us. Of course, that's hearsay. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but as far as Earth is concerned, I have been told that there is a conflict situation between those who have our best interests at heart and those who most definitely do not. And what I have been told is that since the 1940s, some of the smaller entities, the so-called bug-eyed variety, there are many different species of aliens, as I'm sure you're aware, have had the intent of hybridizing the human race by abductions. This is the purpose of the abductions. And apparently the goal is that after 100 years, this was starting in 1940, they would have been able to hybridize enough human beings to populate their alleged underground bases and eventually to take over Earth. Now, it's a pretty wild story, I have to say, but it did come to me from an extremely reliable Washington source, a journalist, a very, very highly qualified source. So there is a threat, and Earth is in danger to perhaps subjugation by some alien species. I'm not saying it's true, Jim, but that's what I have been reliably informed, and that it is actually the greatest threat facing planet Earth.
That would explain a lot of the naysaying and the disinformation that we see going on, and misinformation. Now, let me ask you this. Now, if this is true, and there's this attempt to infiltrate the human race by utilization of hybrids and then kind of take over time, that would assume that there are currently hybrids out there who are maybe not wishing us well. And is there any danger or any thought that they may infiltrate the power structures of world governments?
Well, I wouldn't know about the power structures of world governments, Jim, but certainly there's clearly an intention to dominate the planet. Whether they'll ever get away with it, I honestly don't know. What I can say is that many of your United States and other U.S. Navy pilots and military pilots in many countries around the world, including mine and many countries in Europe, including Italy and Germany, have actually been flying UFOs for a very long time, since I think it started in the mid-50s. Now, how does that happen? Because we have had visitors who do have our best interests at heart, and they are very advanced human beings, tens of thousands, maybe several thousands of years in advance of us. At least they say they are. They live up to 400 years. And they have our best intentions at heart, and they have actually given us their technology since the mid-50s. Now, you might say, why on earth would they give us warlike human beings their technology, their craft? Well, the reason is quite simple. It's to help them, these apparently very friendly aliens who do have our best interests at heart, defeat those who do not have our best interests at heart. I mean, it's all fantastic stuff, but I do believe it, and the information has been given to me by very, very reliable sources. So they have given us their technology, and our pilots and astronauts have been flying alien vehicles, some of which have actually been given to us, others which we have developed ourselves to help with this situation.
So, for example, if we see something like the stealth bomber, the stealth fighter, those are obviously much lower on the food chain than something like what you're describing. So,
way down.
So these kind of craft, and I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming this just doesn't exist to the extent of the U.S. government. But these are solely reserved, for lack of a better phrase, for alien fighting.
Well, no. The aliens, as I say, have given us some of their craft, and they have taught us how to fly their craft. In some cases, we have duplicated these ourselves to fly, and a number of countries, I can't tell you all of them, I don't know. I know that certainly the United States, Great Britain, Germany, probably Russia, I don't know about China, have been flying these craft for a very long time. So when you see a flying saucer, there ain't necessarily an alien on board. Right. They might be one of our guys.
So, but I guess what I was saying is not. I understand the quote good aliens supplied those to to Earthlings.
Correct.
What I'm saying are they the reason they did that was if we ever need them to fight the bad aliens? Was that the
Well, that's happening already, apparently. That's been happening since the mid-1950s. Definitely. That's the object of the exercise.
So the stories we've heard, for example, and I know that you cover this a little bit, or probably quite extensively in your book, Eisenhower and the aliens and those kind of things, those things have the ring of truth to them then?
Yes, sure. Well, as far as Eisenhower is concerned, I mean, he had, I would say, at least 3 or 4 meetings, arranged meetings, official meetings with extraterrestrials, starting in 1954, when he had 2 encounters with aliens at what was then known as Muroc Airfield, and now Edwards Air Force Base, of course, in California. And in 1955, I've got a chapter on these 2 incidents, 1954 and 1955. 1955, Eisenhower was he made an announcement at a press conference that he needed a few days break, and he was going quail hunting with one of his friends, one of his highly placed political friends, and he took a whole gaggle of people, including some of his family, Mamie Eisenhower, and a lot of people to this farm in Georgia, which was owned by one of the friends who Eisenhower was going to stay with. And that was just actually a cover, because within a very short space of time, within a few hours, it had been reported that Eisenhower had got a cold and he was going to bed. Well, in fact, not at all. He went on a top-secret trip in Air Force One in his own plane with just a few attendees, police guards and so forth, and flew to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico for this arranged meeting with an extraterrestrial or extraterrestrials. We don't know the outcome of that. All I know is that the major concern of the aliens was because we were exploding our hydrogen bombs, not just atom bombs, but hydrogen bombs.
Right.
We were exploding them in the oceans and things, and they were not too taken. They
weren't too happy about that. Now, something I've asked numerous authors, and it's always struck me, if you look at the post-war era,
yes.
The Second World War,
Yep.
It seems like the development and the evolution of technology has just been exponential. We went from, and I can even say literally, I'm in my mid-40s, and when I was a kid, we had one dial phone on the wall, and now I'm talking to you. My computer problems, folks, we had a little computer problem on my side starting out, but now notwithstanding, it's tremendous the things that we can do today. With iPhones and so forth. Has there been any technology transfer that has helped spur that kind of thing, or has that been on mankind's dime alone, or have we had a little help with all of that?
We've had a little help with that. I mean, Colonel Philip Corso, who I have a great deal of admiration for, he's deceased now, of course. He wrote that extraordinary book, I think, in the day after Roswell. I think it was 1997, and he said then that we had tons of stuff, materials from recovered alien vehicles, and we had seeded all this into the great industrial corporations in the United States and elsewhere. And there has been a technological transfer. It's been going on for a long time, and we now have the proof of that is that there are people flying these craft. I was told in Italy about 3 years ago, a scientist, Professor Bruno, gosh, I've forgotten his name now, but I'll think of it in a moment. He's a very respected professor, and Stefano Breccia was his name, and I spent a lot of time with him, and he himself had flown in one of these craft and gave me elaborate details. He was a pilot. He was very au fait with what was going on, and the aliens gave him tons of information as to exactly how these craft were made, and they taught us how to make them. I mean, at one time, I think, not that long ago, there were, according to Stefano, 10 Italian Air Force pilots who were flying saucers, if you like, which had been given to us by these groups of human-type aliens who've been helping us.
Now, knowing mankind's kind of disposition, how has, not just the U.S. government or the U.K. government or the former allies, I guess you would call them in terms of Cold War speech, and then the Warsaw Pact, which no longer exists, obviously, but those countries. But why hasn't, any speculation on why hasn't one of these governments who's gotten control of these UFOs gone rogue and used them in mankind to mankind warfare?
Well, perhaps they are being used. I don't know for a fact, but as I say, we were given these craft or taught to how to build them, given the information that they supplied us, to deal with the threat from those who do not have our best interests at heart. So it's been going on for a very long time. And I think, as I said earlier, even some of our own astronauts have been flying these things. Gordon Cooper, who I knew, I never actually met him, but I had a lot of respect for him, and we communicated, usually by letter. And he actually offered, back in 1978, to fly an actual flying craft, which he had flown, which had been given to some of the astronauts to fly. He threatened, I think, to fly it and land in front of the United Nations. This was back in 1978, and land in front of the United Nations building in New York, just to sort of jog things up a little bit.
That certainly would have done it.
And my reliable information is that possibly a lot